Welcome to This Commerce Life. We are an unscripted podcast dedicated to small businesses and entrepreneurs in the retail and consumer packaged goods space in Canada and the United States.
I am Phil Chang, co-host and co-founder.
And I'm Kenny Vanucci, co-host and co-founder of This Commerce Life.
Our love is the journey to retail, and our passion is sharing that with you every week.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
You?
Well, thanks.
Excellent.
We'll get some volume here so
Nice
I can
to
actually
see
hear.
you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys. It's great to meet you both.
Yeah.
No, it was our pleasure. I mean, you came highly recommended. So actually from a few different people even.
Yeah, I was looking back at my email. I think we've been introduced by a couple different people.
I was thinking that this morning too, because I'm thinking, who, like, because I'm always trying to figure, okay, first off, you'll learn that we don't remember much of anything, or at least one of us doesn't.
Me
But
too.
I'm trying to think, I think a few angles came. So I think Hayden was sort of the last one that we kind of jumped on, but I think, I can't remember, was it Hive or, I don't know, but there was like a whole.
I think Amanda, and then
Maybe.
I can't remember. Yeah,
Hayden
there's
definitely
a few other people. There's Hayden,
Yeah.
Amanda, and then there's a couple other folks that you popped up.
Yeah. So anyway, we're excited to have you on.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks, guys. It's an honor.
Yeah. It's all right. Are you kidding? Like, your stuff is all over the place. It's
Man, shit, you're
cool.
Everywhere.
We're trying. Yeah, it's been a brutal grind, as you guys know, with CPG stuff. We're making progress, I think. Most days.
You learn. Everybody from the outside looking in. I mean, how complicated can it be? You make something.
Yep.
You phone somebody. Of course, they're going to say yes. It goes on the shelf, and everybody makes money, right?
Do you think that's how it would go? Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. The something like that is the real killer, right? Everyone goes, yeah, it's something like that. And you're like,
it's close.
it's not like that at all. Like, what?
Not even close.
Yeah, not even close.
No.
Yeah.
I make something, and everybody takes all the way through the system, and I get nothing at the end. That's more like what the game is.
You get $100,000 charge back from your biggest retailer.
Right. And you're thinking,
Oh my
I don't
God.
think, then you look at it, accounts and say, have we invoiced the 100,000 even?
Yeah.
I thought we put 10 grand through. How did we get $100,000?
No. It's not. Have we invoiced 1,000? It's all or 100,000. It's we've invoiced 100,000, and they still need another 120 days to pay or something. But
Yeah. I'm only going to get
180.
whatever. 1,000 days to pay. It might as well be 1,000 days to pay, right?
Why don't you guys just keep it? It's our treat. You just sell it and make all the money. Enjoy yourselves.
We'll just comp. We'll just comp the next, 5 years worth of shipments. It's fine.
Yeah, quite the industry we picked.
Yeah, it's definitely not what you think it's going to be. And it's amazing. And I know that you're in it. Like, even when you watch media or news and you listen to the price increase story and how it gets spun depending on who's paying for advertising on said channels or whatever, you sit back and think, wow, you guys really have no clue on how this game plays and why we end up in the mess we end. You can blame whichever side you want, but it's typically, I hate to say, it's typically not the supply side, not small guys. Large guys can influence everything, both sides.
For sure. Yeah.
But the little guys are the ones that get screwed all the way through because
yeah, exactly.
You don't have the size, you don't have the volume to really change anything. What are you going to do? Like, if you grind like crazy and pull a percent out of your cogs, like you're doing a dance.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And we have no leverage with the retailers, right?
Yeah.
They say
No leverage with your
jump.
suppliers to some degree until you get to a huge size, right?
Yeah, exactly. If some of my suppliers, if they just ship me an order, I'm doing good, let alone negotiate price.
Yeah. And then if a retailer pays, woohoo, baby.
Yeah.
Crushing it today.
No kidding. Yeah.
Anyway, Mitchell, so that's sort of what the podcast is going to be about. Is
fantastic.
Usually what we do. So, I mean, I guess I'll start, Phil. So Mitchell Jacobson's on, and I'm going to say owner, founder, big boss of Rviita, which is, I'm going to get it wrong. I know it's a drink, and I know it's a sports drink, and I know it's an energy drink, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, healthy energy drink.
Because you know what, that category, I just never know where anybody's positioned these days.
Yep.
I'm for sure that's what it was. So anyway, that's what we're going to do for you, Mitchell. What we usually just ask of people is give us the story, where you came from, like before you got into this mess, why you got into this mess, why you continue in this mess, but the trials and tribulations. And I'm sure you've had a lot of great wins, so we want all the wins you get. But I think it's important because our audience is a lot of startups as well as a lot of established.
Yeah.
It needs to know sometimes the trials and tribulations as much as all the wins, because the wins are awesome, but the bullshit of the game needs to get told too. So
yeah, I agree.
45, 50 minutes. It's yours, buddy. You can talk about whatever you feel like talking about. Phil and I interject sometimes when we either tune in and listen, and we can try to figure out what the hell we're going to ask you, or if we're just a little on the confused side too. But it's yours, man.
I'm looking forward to this one. So before
I'll
start the pace by interjecting right away. But as I was reading, I mean, I kind of followed you and your growth for a little bit anyway. But I think just reading about it, I think as a coffee drinker and a drinker period, like I like drinking different drinks, as I have a real appreciation for.
Yeah.
I think where you went, and I can't, the hoops that we go through to try and make sure that we get a nice afternoon drink in is sometimes really significant. So kind of appreciate, what you're after. So anyway, I'll stop introduction. I'll shut up and kind of let you do your thing. So.
Yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, and you guys can just call me Mitch too. So are we starting now or?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy, we're in it 5 minutes ago.
We're in it. Oh yeah.
Oh, we're in it. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We like a running start because sometimes, when we first started, it was like, okay, we're in it now, and then people would go, now what? Right? We're like,
and then you're thinking, okay,
we got a good pace
you can
going,
breathe.
So we hit record, and
Totally, yeah.
Had you said something about like the color of your underwear or something like that, I'd edit it out later, but
well, maybe
you didn't do anything like that, so we're good. So
I like it. Just get right into it. Well,
yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. So, Mitch Jacobson.
Our pleasure.
I'm the janitor, the receptionist, and sometimes the founder and CEO of Rviita Energy Tea. So it's a natural energy drink. It's this crazy beverage in a pouch here. And like we were just talking about, guys, I did not come from the CPG world. I'm a petroleum engineer actually by trade. So this whole CPG space has been a complete shock to me. It's been a wild ride. We've been in business for about 4.5 years now, and I've had every up and every down you can possibly imagine. And I'm just really excited to share our story and talk about some of the trials and tribulations.
I'm excited. From petroleum to this. Wow.
Yeah, that's a 180.
Jeez,
can you imagine quitting my secure engineering job, telling everyone I was going to go sell tea in pouches? I got some pretty crazy looks.
Well, yeah, and to your point, the selling tea is fine. Selling tea in pouches, I'd be, huh?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Really?
That was a crazy decision to make. So, when I first started thinking about starting a healthy energy drink brand, I thought for sure we were going to be in a can. And fortunately, I got a chance to speak with someone who helped launch Monster into Canada. And I was showing him my can design at the time, getting me this healthy energy drink, but the logo looked basically like a Monster or a Red Bull knockoff. And he took one look at it and said, "You're going to get crushed. There's no way you're going to be able to compete. Like, how are consumers going to know that you're different?" And that's what kind of set me on this path of,
right.
Well, if I'm in a can, I'm just going to blend in with everything else. So why don't we do something totally unique, something that no one's ever done before, and also something that was more environmentally sustainable. It's having a bit of a background in engineering and sustainability. When I looked at the data, the pouch kept popping up as a really sustainable option. So it was a combination of that conversation and the sustainability piece that led me to do energy tea in pouches. But it's a pretty crazy move.
That's ballsy. It's actually really smart though. And it's good that you asked someone. It's actually good that someone actually gave you good advice and you listened, because I think to their point, you go in you go with a pop, make it look like Coca-Cola, see how well you do.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. You have to be differentiated, especially as a new brand. So I didn't know anything about branding and marketing, but that was one of the things I kind of got right by accident, is because our pouch is so unique that when we're merchandised in the energy drink set, people automatically say, "Hey, that's different. What is that?" And then we don't get associated with the typically a lot of energy drinks are perceived to be unhealthy, we don't get associated with that necessarily right off the bat because our packaging is so different.
Well, it's very clean, and yeah, it's actually really nice.
I mean,
Thank you, Ken.
I think the pouch really,
It's something about it, eh, Phil?
it's aesthetically pleasing, and then
Yeah.
I really do like. I just think, because it doesn't matter what you print on the can, right? Like, how do you?
A can's a can, man.
So many cans out there, like,
Yeah. Especially an energy drink. Like, it's just, it's.
yeah.
Yeah, you got to keep going on the whole story. Well, give us the
Yeah,
before
please.
and
Don't
then
let
get it into it, because, like, seriously, the pouch is a pretty. It's a ballsy move, but really quite brilliant.
Yeah, well, thank you. It doesn't feel brilliant some days, but I guess,
Well,
yeah,
that's just retail. Don't worry, that's got nothing to do with brilliance. That's just retail.
that's retail in general. Yeah, I guess, to back up. So when I was in my early 20s, this is when I was going to school to be an engineer. My best friend at the time, he was working on the oil rigs in northern Alberta. And like, many people in that trade, he loved energy drinks probably too much. And I was out with him one night. We were having some drinks. He was probably 5 or 6 energy drinks in. And I'll never forget it. He goes ghost white. He clutches the left side of his chest. He nearly stops breathing. I rush him to the hospital, and I'm waiting in this room, and the doctor walks out and says, I got some good news and some bad news. Good news, your friend's going to be okay. But bad news is we think he had a heart attack, or we think it might have had to do with all these energy drinks he's been drinking. He was 21 years old. Yeah, fit, healthy, like
What?
the guy looked great, and here he goes and has a heart attack. Now he's okay. He's made a full recovery. But this was the light bulb moment for me. Like, what is in these things, right? Because you can drink 6 or 7 cups of coffee, and I've never heard of anyone having that type of experience.
Right.
But these energy drinks, they're full of sugar, they're full of chemicals. So a few years later, here I'm working in oil and gas, and I am drinking like 3 or 4 energy drinks a day. I'm starting to experience, I'm getting heartburn for the first time in my life. I'm not sleeping, having all these digestion problems. Cut out the energy drinks, I start feeling better. And that's when I thought, there's got to be a better, healthier alternative. Something with clean, more natural ingredients, something that wasn't carbonated, because the carbonated always screwed up my guts. I looked everywhere on the market to find something that checked all those boxes, and I couldn't find it. So me being ignorant, naive, thought that, hey, maybe this is something that I can do, and that's what ultimately set me on this path to create a healthy energy drink in a pouch.
No, well, I don't think that makes you ignorant or naive. I think that makes you amazing, right? I think you makes you a trailblazer. I think the only part is the CPG part, right?
Yeah, it's not ignorance. It's a little bit of stupidity, a little nutty, but it's really not an ignorant thing. It's quite brilliant.
No, it's
not illegal. It makes you nuts. I mean, that's just by definition. But
you know what it is? It's like going through the pass between Calgary and Alberta. Between Alberta and BC. And then that avalanche sign or the rock slide sign, and you kind of go, it's fine. It won't happen to me. I'll just drive through it. And then you get hit by the first CPG rock and go, what the fuck?
That's a really good analogy, hey? Like 90% of CPG businesses or something don't make it. You're just like, oh, I probably won't be one of those.
Why would I be one of them?
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And like most consumers, like general consumers, I had no idea how a product got on the shelf of a grocery store. I just assumed that like Hershey made their chocolate bars and sent it to Safeway, and they got paid a decent margin. And I didn't think about any of the people that were in the middle, or brokers, or chargebacks. Or I remember the first time I heard MCBs, manufacturer chargebacks, I like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't budget any of that into my business plans.
And why do I have to do that? Shouldn't they do that? They bought it from me.
Yeah, they bought it from me. I thought it just ended there. So yeah, I learned a lot of hard lessons in my first couple years of business. And made every mistake you can possibly imagine, but we're still standing here today.
That's funny. So you get this idea. Sorry, Phil.
No, go ahead.
So you get this idea. So there's something better, because you're going to fall apart, because it is. And people need to understand, it's the high levels of sugar, then the rest of the shit ingredients, and then the caffeine, because you're drinking coffee, you're drinking copious amounts of caffeine. So you got a combination of a lot of not on their own, probably not the worst ingredients on the planet, in moderation, together at high levels, really not the greatest cocktail.
I really agree, Kenny. When you start looking at 40, 50, 60 grams of sugar in some of these energy drinks. So that's one. They got artificial sweeteners in a lot of them, which, my personal opinion is I'm not a fan of artificial sweeteners. No. You got, the caffeine and taurine combination, which I've seen studies now saying that that's maybe not the best for you. So you got this cocktail of, chemicals, high caffeine, high sugar, and caffeine on its own, I think, is great. We have caffeine in our energy drink. It's naturally sourced from tea, but I think it's when you start mixing caffeine with 40 grams of sugar, you mix it with taurine, you mix it with a whole bunch of amino acids I can't even pronounce, and then artificial sweeteners and artificial flavors. I think that's where the problems really start to arise in these products.
Totally. Okay, so you got the idea. There's something better. Now what?
Yeah, so I start looking on the market and I can't find anything that checks these boxes. So I think, well, maybe this is something that I can create, because I was really into competing in athletics at the time. I wanted something that was sort of like a pre-workout powder, but was in a ready-to-drink beverage, but was clean and natural, didn't give you the jitters, didn't make you feel like there's spiders crawling on your face like a lot of these energy drinks and pre-workouts. So for me, where it started is I literally Googled, how do you start a beverage company? That was step one. Step two is I went to Safeway, my local Safeway. I bought like caffeine pills. I bought a bunch of tea, instant coffees, things like that. Started mixing everything you can imagine together in my kitchen. It was just like a mad chemist, scientist, no idea what I was doing. Little did I know that that's not the way you develop a commercial beverage. So I figured out pretty quickly that I didn't know what I was doing. None of it tasted good. And through that Google search and just doing research, I discovered what I did not know was a profession, but food scientists. So these food scientists, as you guys know, they help young entrepreneurs like myself create a commercial formula for a beverage or a food product. So I start cold calling these food scientists, and that alone was hilarious because they're asking me questions. How many SKUs do you want? I didn't know what a SKU was. I was as green as you can imagine, but finally found a food scientist in Western Canada here that was willing to work with me. So it was a $5,000 or $10,000 retainer to get started, which I didn't have that money yet. So I had a student line of credit, like a grace period from getting out of university. So I maxed that out, used that as our startup capital, and started working with this food scientist. And what I thought was going to take 3 or 4 months to develop a great tasting beverage took about 2.5 years of just going back and forth and trying absolutely everything you can possibly imagine.
Welcome to it, buddy.
Yeah, welcome to it. And one story I tell quite often is, so I'm about, I'd say $25,000 into this project. We're like 6 months in, and I come home from work one day and there's this beautiful FedEx box sitting on my front porch. And these are the first beverage samples from this food scientist that I dumped my student line of credit into. I couldn't even afford. I was using debt to pay for it. And I remember opening that box. I'm like, this is the drink that's going to change my life. So I'd read somewhere that you got to do blind taste testing. So I invited all my friends and family over, and we had those red party cups that you see like playing beer pong. And I had them labeled A through E, and everyone had to fill out the sheet, saying, I had like Red Bull in a cup and vitamin water, like all these beverages that everyone is familiar with. And then my drink was one of the samples. And I hadn't tried it yet. I was going to wait for everyone else to try it because I'm like, this is going to be the amazing drink. Everyone's going to rank it number one. It's going to be great. And I'm collecting the sheets at the end, and it's like sample A, love this, tastes great. Sample B, tastes familiar, would drink this again. I get to sample D, and one person puts, tastes like battery acid, would never drink this again. This is horrible. Who made this? This is disgusting. I'm like, well, I wonder what sample D is. What did I put in that cup? Sample D was my drink.
No.
So here I am, like 25 grand in with working with this food scientist, and it did. Like, we started from the bottom, let me tell you. I was trying to use all these ingredients, like branch chain amino acids that like just didn't work in beverage. I didn't know what I was doing, right? So we started dead last in the blind taste test, and then just went back to the food scientist, another 5 grand, make tweaks, make adjustments. Then the next blind taste test 2 months later, we were like second last. Then 2 months later, then we were third last.
You're killing it, man.
2 years into like winning the blind taste test consistently or very near the top. So I tell that story because I think it's important to know. I know a lot of your listening base is young entrepreneurs, people just getting started. Like, I started having zero knowledge with a product that did not taste good and needed a ton of work. And I think the number one lesson I've learned in entrepreneurship in CPG specifically, if you're going to make it, you have to persevere. Like, you're going to fail time and time again. You're going to get punched in the face by, you know, every partner.
My family.
Yeah, you haven't even hit the retailer yet.
Yeah.
But you
And
did the right thing, though. You because you now know, because you also, now that you're in the game, you know a lot more people, and you know a lot of people skip those steps.
They do. They just get their mom to taste their product, right?
Exactly. What's mom going to say? Mom's always going to say, "Oh, son, such a daughter, it's such a great product. You're so smart."
You're so exactly, yeah. And so that blind taste test was actually a great idea, because even my mom didn't rank the first one very good, right? Because she just didn't know what it was. So I think that's if you're a new entrepreneur in the food or beverage space, like, do a blind taste test with your friends and family. That's the only way you're going to get non-biased feedback from them.
Didn't it kill you though? Like you said, 2 years, right? Of all this back, like, didn't that just like when's I mean, give up time for you is obviously not within 2 years. We figured that out, but that's a long time. Like, don't you like, you're getting the shit kicked out of you like perpetually.
Oh, 100%, Kenny. I wanted to quit probably 100 times in those 2 years, but I kept coming back to a couple of things. One, I kept thinking about my friend, and this was a big problem that needed to be solved. But two, I just felt a calling to be an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Like, I felt like deep in my soul that, I was meant to do my own thing. And even though I loved my job, I loved my engineering job at the time, I felt very empty deep down, because I'd always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I was too afraid to take the leap and do it. So there was something within me that just had me keep going, no matter how.
Well, I guess 25 grand in and kind of is another motivation,
That's
like,
another thing too, right?
I get my money back.
Yeah, exactly. I got to pay for this somehow. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So you got to taste test. Now, are you taste testing? So when they're sending back to you, are they sending back in cans? Like, at this point, at this point, it's not coming back in a vat or 6 gallon. It's not coming in a milk jug. So how is this coming to you? And like, is the format the one you're in, or is it?
No, it's coming in like little glass bottles, like just little glass bottles. Like, it was pretty crude. Like, this food scientist was mixing. At least they were commercial ingredients, but he's mixing them together, putting it in these glass bottles, FedExing it to me in my house, and then we're doing the taste test. So after 2 years, we got that formula pretty much down pat. It's our first flavor was Divine Strawberry. It's still one of our top sellers today. That's what we launched with. And where the pouch came from is about a year into that process, Kenny and Phil. That's when I had that conversation with that gentleman who helped launch Monster. I'm really starting to think about, how can I differentiate the brand, but also, I want to use packaging that's as environmentally sustainable as possible, because I had a bit of a background in that, and that's what ultimately led me to the pouch. But here's the next problem. I start calling these pouch manufacturers, talking about, I want to make a pouch and I want it to have a drinking experience like a bottle. And all of them said, well, we have like the baby food pouches, right? Like the tiny little spout. And when I did some customer research and interviews and stuff with potential customers, the number one piece of feedback I got is they said, well, I don't want it to feel juvenile. I don't want to feel like I'm drinking out of a baby food pouch. And I'm like, well, neither do I, right? I don't want to like a rinky-dink little spout. And so what was really important to me was having like a spout that was comparable size to a regular bottle, because it needed to have the same drinking experience. If you're going to be sucking out of a little spout, it's going to be too weird, especially even for myself. Like, I wouldn't want to be seen in public drinking out of this rinky-dink little spout. So, but the spout that we have had never been done before.
It didn't exist, though, did it?
It didn't exist. So I went to these pouch suppliers and they're like, we don't have a design for that. Like, you're going to have to design it yourself. So I'm like, well, how do I design a pouch? Like I got to get the volume right. I got to get the dimensions right. So again, being a naive young engineer trying to figure this out, I went and bought freezer paper from my local grocery store, and I got a curling iron, and I would weld freezer paper together in my kitchen. I cut the ball out off of like a Coke bottle, and I'd weld it in with the curling iron, and that's how we made the early prototypes of our packaging to figure out the volume. And then once we had a design that roughly worked, that's when I went back to the packaging companies, and then we have a patent on it now, but we went through the designs. And so this beverage pouch that we have is completely unique to us, and it started by using freezer paper and a curling iron in my kitchen, just screwing around.
That's crazy
Yeah.
though, because that's yeah. I mean, the pack with it on top is actually kind of cool too. And the size of it is pretty amazing. But Jesus Christ, now just another complication, right?
Yeah, another massive complication, and it really didn't stop there. Like, once we went to production with a manufacturer, I figured out pretty quickly that because our pouch is so unique, there was no one that could produce this beverage at scale. So we got a year into the business. We're using this little lab scale manufacturing partner, and we outgrew them very quickly because once we got into Safeway, they couldn't keep up with the production. So here I am calling every manufacturer that I could find on Google. I flew to the States, I flew to Ontario, I flew all over Canada trying to find somebody that could help us scale this beverage up. We're like a year and a half in. We have an investor now. Like, it's game time. We just signed a big lease, and no one could make it for me. And a couple said, well, we can maybe make it for you, but you have to buy us a filling machine. Well, a filling machine runs between 500,000 and $1 million.
Yeah, don't worry.
Here I am.
$500,000.
Yeah, not going to happen, guys.
Yeah.
A year and a half into the business, and I had to completely pivot our business model. I never wanted to do manufacturing. It's not something that I was interested in doing. I wanted to be the marketing distribution arm of the business. Someone else can co-pack it for me, but we got forced in that direction. So a year and a half in, we had to raise money again and built our own manufacturing line. So now we have the only manufacturing line of its kind actually in North America, specifically for these pouches, which was another complete 180 with the business, and another piece of extreme adversity. If you can imagine building an entire manufacturing line that had never been built before because we have a new packaging, having to build it from scratch.
There is, so if I think about that, because it's a weird parallel, but when I worked for an over-the-counter drug company, right? There's only so many combinations of pill bottles and lids, that you can get, right? Like for things like Tylenol or Benadryl, things like that. And so when I look at your pack, anyone else who's in this sort of pack, you're 100% right. They actually all use the little kid, like the same one that you would use for applesauce.
Yes,
it is that one. That's the pouch.
They use it for smoothies. They use it for, and then if I think of there are a couple of olive oil companies and there's a yogurt company that all have similar sort of pouches, but they all use that tiny little spout. I guess I'm also curious, you might actually have manufacturing capability to be able to go to some of these.
Well, you can definitely do some co-packing.
I have a really unique, kind of thing that allows you to not be a kid anymore. Right?
100%. So
plus, I think the one thing you learn is that it's good to be different, and what you did is very cool, but you do throw a fucking huge wrench into your world because all the packaging machines are designed to do what.
Yeah. Oh, we might have lost
sort of what you did.
Yeah.
And when do you give up? I mean, obviously you did it, thank God. But you know what I mean? Because for most, really, come on. I got to do my own manufacturing. I don't even know how to get this stuff. I don't even know what the hell I just got. I don't even know how I got here. Now I'm going to actually make this.
100%, Kenny. Yeah, I mean that was a real crossroads in our business where we had to seriously think about just throwing in the towel, right? Because we can't scale this thing. No one can make it for us. We have one option, and that option is to build our own manufacturing line, or completely switch pouches. But again, that went back to my hypothesis. I don't think if we had the smaller spout, we would have even half the success that we have today. I think so much of our success has been driven by the fact that our drinking experience of our product is not that much different than a can or a bottle. It's very comparable, and the pouch looks aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't look like a juvenile beverage. So yeah, that was it's some really difficult conversations, and it was a very, very challenging time because now you have to pivot the entire business. I had to sign a lease, for $20,000 in rent a month, which before that I was working out of my house, right? So I have all this overhead. Building a production line for to fill pouches like this is a minimum of $1 million investment. So now I got to get bank loans. I got to raise money, which I wasn't planning on doing for a period of time. So it threw a complete wrench in the business. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life by far. Everything you can imagine that could have went wrong, but it's also the best business decision we ever made. Our gross margins are much better. We have way more control over our business. And now we have an asset, like you had mentioned, Kenny, where we can co-pack for others. And it's given us a great competitive advantage because our packaging can't be easily knocked off. There's no one else that can.
Well, you definitely are in a pocket where you're proprietary. I mean, what seriously, it'll happen. Like some big guy, because that's what happens. It's always a little guy who does something. Then a big guy comes in and says, "Oh shit, that's easy. What's a couple, $3-4 million?"
Exactly.
It's the petty cash side of their business, right? It'll happen, but you've got such a great lead, and if you can start to put some capacity into other people's product, hopefully non-competitive, obviously, but yeah, you got a whole different world here, man, and we need production in this country.
We really do. Yeah, it's something I've become very passionate about too, is we need to create jobs here. We need entrepreneurial companies that are going to do their manufacturing in Canada, and they're going to create jobs here. We need more of that.
Wow.
This is super cool. It's
I think I would have given up, Phil. Just half an hour of listening to this and I'm already tired.
Yeah, it's been...
There are like lots of absurd moments. Like I kind of look at, I get stuck on things like lids.
Yeah.
Because when we were launching a product for Benadryl, I remember our supplier coming back and going, "Listen, I don't have enough lids." And I was like, "Hang on, what are you talking about? Like we've been working on this thing. It's going to be like a $20-30 million launch. Like what are we talking about?" And they're like, yeah. So we don't have enough lids. And you're going, "Are you?
What does that even mean?
Like what?" When did it occur to you that you would have enough lids? Like what the, like all this weird shit, right? That, and because you're unique, like there aren't any other lids. You can't borrow lids from anybody else because nobody has this lid. Like, nobody has that neck besides you, right? Like it's all these things.
Well, nobody's got anything. Probably the size of your packaging is non-standard.
Nothing standard at all. Yeah. So everything is custom. Like everything on our production line, from our tank to the filling machine, is like a one-of-one machine. It's the only one ever in Canada. Like our conveyors are custom because you can't just convey these on like something that's built for cans. So yeah, everything about what we have to do is completely customized. Plus just the food science behind actually filling the pouch. We don't use preservatives. So there's been a steep learning curve on figuring out the food science and the actual expertise that goes into creating a product that's not going to spoil on the shelf.
So what is shelf life?
Shelf life is right now we're 9 months. We're working on getting it up to.
But that's reasonable. I mean, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that because I'm assuming you've got definitively a seasonal spike in our country. I'm assuming once we thaw, which this year there's not much thawing going on, but it's Canada, right? So we've got, let's say, April to October that it's really outside. Yes, you can use it in gyms and you can use it at the office and all that stuff, but I'm assuming there's some spike to it, so you should be able to flush through pretty quickly. But I'm still more amazed that, like, and not to dwell, but it's the give up point. Like, when do you seriously, you get so many obstacles that are just, first off, you don't know it yourself, right? Which is fine because other people do, but then you start asking, you figure out nobody else knows it either.
Yes.
And then you think of, okay, it's just a drink. Like, fuck, man. When do I just say, okay, that's enough?
Kenny, I've had the same conversation with myself, and
how'd that go?
Yeah, there's been some really dark times, especially 2023. Like that was our hardest year ever. We got a filling machine that we paid almost $500,000 for. It was a year delayed. So we had to use basically a hand filler for our first year of manufacturing. We filled
out of Asia, I'm assuming. So nothing.
It comes from Europe. So, and then we get the machine, and it took 7 or 8 months to get it working right. It was a nightmare. Like it threw our complete 2023 plans down the drain. And I was pretty much a machine repairman for the first 8 months of the year. Broke my hand on the production line. I'm like running production runs with one hand. And it comes down to that same question, Kenny, where you're looking yourself in the mirror We're not profitable yet. Then I'm getting all these chargebacks from retailers. Our manufacturing is a, got a long way to go. Like, at what point do you throw in the towel? And for me, I really strongly feel like this is my life's purpose. So that's one. It's like a deep feeling of purpose that this is what I'm meant to do, and I have to persevere. So that's one. And two, and I take this very seriously, I have investors that have put large sums of money into the individuals that have put large sums of money into the business. And it is my life's purpose to get them a return on that investment. And there's no way in hell that I would ever walk away from that obligation. So that's two. And then three is the amount of customers that have reached out to us and said that our product has, either changed their life or had a significant impact. We've had cancer patients in the hospital that said this is one of the few things ever that made them feel better. We've had people with all sorts of health issues saying that this product makes them feel better. We've had people that have gotten off of energy drinks because of our product. We have a folder in our shared drive on our computer that says when you're having a bad day, and it's all of the customer testimonials from people that have sent, like, I'm talking paragraph, like, heartfelt messages. And so, yeah, to answer your question, Kenny, when I have those days where I'm looking in the mirror and I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. This isn't going to work. This is just, I can't see it being any more dark, right? And then I go in that folder and I read those messages and I'm like, this is my purpose. I have to continue. I have to keep going. Wow. And any great success story, any entrepreneur that I've met that has gotten to the pinnacle of success, they've all endured horrific things in their business, and they've just kept going. And I think that's ultimately what leads to success, especially in CPG, is it's not just the best product. It's not just the smartest entrepreneur. It's the one that can endure the longest. I really do believe that. So, we've been through some horrific things. Like, when we were building the production line, we're like 4 months in, it's already $100,000 over budget. I'm having a heck of a time trying to manage the business and manage all the contractors in the back. So my dad comes and helps me for a few weeks. He's an engineer too. He's helping me manage the contractors, and he had a broken foot at the time. So he was rolling around on one of those scooters, and he told me to move this pallet that I'd left out in the back, and I hadn't moved it for a couple of days, and one of our contractors leaves early. Well, he scoots out chasing after this contractor. His scooter catches the pallet. He goes over the handlebars and breaks both his arms.
No.
Seriously. Oh,
so here's my dad helping me out, right? And I got to pick him up off the floor. He's got 2 broken arms and a broken leg now. And he gets rushed to the hospital. I can't even come with him because I have a sales call that I have to take a half hour later. And that was the darkest night of my life. I remember just sitting in my office, pitch black, and I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like, we're just not going to make it. Like, my hero, my dad, he's here helping me.
I'm killing the old man, for Christ's
sake.
Yeah, he tried to kill him.
2 broken arms, and
yeah,
barely get any sleep that night. And I wake up to a text from my dad, and he says, I ordered an electric wheelchair to the office. I'll be back later tonight. We got to finish the job. The guy barely took a day off. He ripped around in an electric wheelchair like Professor X, and we managed those contracts and we finished the production line.
So then how do you even, you can't quit
you
that.
can't quit
If the old man's going to do that, like,
yeah, so there's
whatever, right? A broken leg,
no
2 broken
man.
arms.
Yeah.
So
that's
shit.
That's the kind of example that I've had set for me. And my father's a very successful entrepreneur now too. He's been through some really difficult things, as you can imagine. So that's some of the stories that I reflect on when we're having a really bad day, and I think, well, if he's got 3 broken limbs and he can still get the job done in an electric
on the
wheelchair.
Same day, man, he comes in, does a late shift.
Yeah, the guy's a machine.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
crazy. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been extremely, extremely difficult. Nothing has ever pushed me the way that this journey has. Yeah. But it's also incredibly fulfilling, and you just have to understand it's going to be hard, and you got to persevere.
Well, I guess the thing is, most people don't understand and don't know that, and I think that's why him and I love doing these podcasts and talking to people like you, is because I think people need to understand that this industry can be very fun. Like, there's more fun days, and it can be really rewarding. The people in it are spectacular. Like really and truly, it's a it's a lot of fun. Especially if you're more on the natural side. The conventional side can be whatever it is, but it is a lot of fun. It really is. But Jesus Christ, you take your knocks.
You take your knocks, and it's tough. And I think I'm so glad that you guys are getting this message out there, because I think that's one of the biggest causes of failure for entrepreneurs is they get into this and they think, oh, how hard can it be to make a cookie brand or a beverage brand or whatever? I just sell it to my local grocery store. They're doing the numbers. I make it for $1. I'm going to sell it to the grocery store for $2. They don't factor in that you're going to have 60 cents in chargebacks and listing fees and all of this. And then they get a year and a half into it and they just throw in the towel, right? Because they weren't prepared for how difficult it is. And I think it's really important for new entrepreneurs and people like myself that have been in the game for 4 or 5 years to get the message out there that this is a very difficult industry. And if you're going to get into it, you have to love it, and you have to be willing to take some blows. And you got to understand that, you know, I'm 4 years in, I still haven't taken a paycheck yet. I'm living off savings. I've had to get help from my family. Fortunately, I think I'm going to get a paycheck this year, but that's how long it's taken to get to a point where I could even pay myself, let alone be profitable in the business. So it's a beautiful industry. There's so many great people. You can have so much fun and you can really impact lives, but you have to put in the work, and it is extremely challenging.
Yeah.
It's definitely not like if you want a job and you want a job as CPG, you can go to, like, there are Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies that you can go to, and you can, you know, there's no harm and no shame in that for sure, right? But if you're gonna be a founder, if you want, you know, the title founder is exactly that, right? It's the bottle washer,
everything,
the pallet mover,
don't forget to move the pallet mover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion for sure.
Well, it's you got to be convicted to it, because it's so hard to tell people, because they just don't, because conceptually, like we said from the beginning, we said it a few times, how hard you make a product because you made it at home, mom liked it, you put it in a box or a package, you put some nice colors on it, you know, you go to a store. I mean, why wouldn't they take it? Everybody else liked it. It's easy.
Yeah,
except mom didn't like it the first 3 times, right?
Well, hopefully mom didn't lie, because we did a blind taste test, because you know mom's going to like it otherwise, right? So but it's just, I mean, I'm just amazed that your perseverance, just to tell you, is on a different level.
Yeah,
like I'm to the point where I'm thinking maybe we should get this guy some help, because I don't know if I don't know what world he lives in, but his reality ain't there.
I must be a masochist or something.
There's something else wrong with this guy. Like, I don't know what it is, but he's not that normal. Nice guy, but
I feel like Rocky in the
seriously
the shit kicked out of me for 15 rounds.
Exactly, and for 15 years prior.
Adrian.
My God.
Yeah, but that's, you know, I do think we face some pretty bizarre adversity that's probably unique to us, but there's nobody that I've talked to that's being honest, you know, that's 5 to 10 years into a CPG grind that doesn't have, you know, a dozen crazy stories of, you know, really difficult things that they've overcome.
You've got a few more than normal. I mean, we've done this for a long time, and I've been in this industry a long time, like Phil. Like you've really
there's
I'm not sure what it is with you, but you've really stacked, you know, like it's almost like, masochistic. Yeah, maybe a little bit, because think about it, there are easier paths.
So, okay, but think about this for a second. So credit where credit's due, right? Is you went into, you know, like we're both CPG guys. We've been around a long time. There are not that many categories that scare us at all.
No.
You know, drinks is one of those categories that I think the two of us, right? Like, I would put you in the class with guys like Jeff and Alicia Leahy, right? Like that run Humble, you know, where you kind of go, you're going into what? You couldn't pick any other category. Like you gotta go into the one that every mother and every brother is in, and then every 800-pound gorilla happens to hang out in a corner in, right? Like you gotta go, you know what I mean? Like you went into that, you know,
and
like
yours is even worse.
But you've got folks like Red Bull in this category, like they're doing cliff jumping and all these stupid, like, you know, millions and millions of dollars on helicopter dives and whatever the fuck else at high altitude. Like, you know,
And then you're competing against Coke and
yeah,
Pepsi,
yeah,
who
yeah,
own
yeah,
their
you know,
brands.
so,
Like, I mean, seriously, buddy, if you're gonna, I mean, pick any category.
I know, right? If I could go back
Like,
again,
seriously, like pick
it's
bread.
just like, I know I'm going into
Like,
potato
energy
chips. That's where I'm going.
what was I thinking, right? I just didn't.
I don't think you were. I think that's
No,
our
I wasn't.
fundamental problem here.
I wasn't thinking.
No, but I do. I love it. I think
It's remarkable. Like, you should,
Yeah.
like, seriously, like, wow. I mean, that's all I give you. Like, everybody said we should talk to you. Now I get it, because, like, buddy, you know, if anything, I think when I meet you, I got to give you a hug, but I got to just so you make you feel good for those bad times. And I feel bad for you in a lot of ways. Thinking, holy
That's not even half of it. But I
you're
could
in a
use some
category
help.
that we really need. We need it, right? Like, if
it
you think,
needs
like,
fixing.
we have coffee, we have tea, we've got pop, like, all of which are, you know, like soda pop in particular it's just so bad for you, right? Like, and then it's funny, we took the kids to Europe last summer, and in the UK they're doing half sweet on everything, right? And so my youngest, you know, loves soda, right? Like, so she grabbed a Sprite, and the first thing she was like, this is disgusting. What is this? And I go, oh, it's because here they do everything half sweet, right?
There's
It's
not
got the
as much
natural
sugar, sweetie.
sweetener. It's not as much sugar. And she was just like, I'm done. Like, I think she took 2 sips out of that Sprite, and it was one of those little, like, smaller cans too. She was like, this is disgusting, right? So, you know, you kind of look at that and go, you are uniquely positioned, right, in a place where, you know, coffee, tea, and then what? Like, I've got to do, like, what are we supposed to drink in a day? Like 4 or 5 liters a day per person, right? Yes. So you kind of go, like, 3 coffees is not even, like, hopefully you're not drinking a liter of coffee a day, you know, like, holy crap, right? So now you're into, like, well, what else, right? Do I just drink water all day? We know that's not going to happen. Most people don't, right? So really interesting place to be. Like,
well, plus I think if you're in your, you know, and if you want to be the energy drink, which you obviously did, and for all the right reasons, it's like, seriously, you're battling. It's more what you're saying with Rviita, Phil, is that I know what a Red Bull should taste like. First off, I hate those drinks. I never like the taste. I just don't like them. But that's what you're up against. Yes. And you are up against, like Phil said, they're spending more on advertising than they're generating in revenue. Yes. It's not true, but, you know, it's that sort of analogy. And you've got Monster doing the same, and all these guys, and you're battling shelf space that you want, but they don't give a shit. They don't want to give you anything. Like, nobody wants to help you. And you got a great cause and all the right things. And that's already hard. And then you just decided to complicate the shit out of it.
Everything. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you just figured, okay, I've got it figured out. I know what I want to make, but you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to go and make this near impossible just for funsies.
Yeah, just for funsies, and have every problem you can possibly imagine. Yes. It's been,
like, seriously, this is one of the more remarkable stories I think we've heard in probably the 350 plus episodes. That, Jesus Christ, buddy. I mean, oh my God. I think we owe you hugs, just, you know.
Yeah. But we love it.
For those days, you're just so miserable.
Yeah, I really love it. This is a
wow,
great.
Good for you.
Yeah, you're on a path. This is exciting.
Oh, you're gonna kill it, man. If you've got this much perseverance, buddy, you're gonna own the planet.
Well, thank you. I hope we're through the worst of it, because 2023, I couldn't imagine much of a worse year than that. So on top of all the production issues, we had 500,000 defective pouches we had to deal with too, like, which is like one thing after the next.
So what's 2024 starting like? So let's get some happy times. How are you looking? You got 2 months in?
Yeah, it's
gone, thank God.
23 is gone, and things are really looking up this year. So we've raised money again. This is our biggest round ever. I walked away from a very lucrative venture capital deal that we just couldn't get to the finish line with, but had some really amazing people I used to work with actually come to the table. So we're
even better.
Raise more money than we were expecting, which is incredible. We've launched a new marketing strategy that's working extremely well. Our product tastes better than ever. We've made some improvements to our packaging and our formulas. We got some new flavors coming out. We're staffing up now. We've added some new team members. So everything is really pointing in the right direction for this.
That's awesome. And now, right now, Canada focused, States focused, both focused.
Yeah, right now we're just primarily in Canada. We're just in March going to be launching on Amazon Prime in the US, and then
Beautiful.
The big goal with this capital raise that we just did will be to take our product into the US.
Beautiful.
Come 2025.
Wow. Exciting.
Good on you, man.
Yeah, really
seriously, just good on you. Good on you. Good on you. Wow.
I'm going to keep persevering.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Wow. I mean, shit, you got no choice now. You're 4 years in.
Yeah.
Can't give up now.
Exactly. I'm unemployable now, so this is it.
You're quasi-certifiable is what you are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If this doesn't work out, I'm going to be in a mental institution somewhere.
Oh my Lord.
Oh man. Before we run out of time, if people want to find you, where do they find you? What's the best way to kind of reach you?
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So of course our website, it's rviita.com. So that's RVIITA.com. We're on Amazon. We're actually really starting to do well on Amazon, especially this year. We've been in the top 50 sports and energy drinks.
Good for
I
you.
think we're one of the only small companies to ever do that consistently. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
We're on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn, just Mitch Jacobson with an EN on LinkedIn, and TikTok as well. So those are the best ways to connect.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for doing this. This has been amazing.
You're incredible. I mean,
so glad to meet you. Yeah.
You're doing CHFA, I'm assuming?
I'll be at CHFA. Absolutely. You guys too.
We'll see you there, and we'll give you the hugs because I think you need a few.
Yeah, I could use more than a few, I think.
Jesus.
Listen, if you're listening to this episode and you see Mitch, just walk over and give him a hug.
Just give him a hug. Just give him a hug.
Yeah.
Right? Seriously.
Amazing. Mitch, thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Thank you guys for your time. It was an honor.
God, our pleasure. Like seriously, that was wonderful. Thank you very, very much for doing this for us. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Anytime. Big fan of the podcast, and it's so.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very kind. Okay, my friend, go back to work. Move the pallets. Walk for the old man. Just just take care of that shit. Phil, you hang on. Mitchell, have a great day, buddy.
You too. Take care, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Take care. See ya.
Wow.
We almost need to make an award for
that's a wow.
We need to, I'm just spitballing, it probably won't make it in the podcast, but like most outrageous entrepreneur story award.
That's a wow.
Would be kind of I'm serious. Like
buddy, I seriously, I mean, that's incredible. That's insanity at the nth degree.
Right.
What a
most
story.
outrageous founder story, or most like for the dad to kind of go,
the old man should get an award. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great story though. Like, I mean, and I obviously, and it's always the same thing we talk about, is that a lot of these stories are so personal, right? There's been an event, typically not a good one, right? Where something has gone sideways in life, or someone's life, or someone close to you, and you develop these products or ideas to say, listen, we got to fix this, whatever we're going to fix. In this case, is his buddy at a young age having a heart attack, and probably, I mean, it sounds like it seems logical, who knows, but from this category, which is really not a very healthy category, period. That was very kind, just so we're clear. It's a disaster, but wow. Like, when do you give up? Like, seriously. I mean, there's entrepreneurs that grind, but mamma mia.
Yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. It's kind of nuts. It's kind of amazing, and it's kind of nuts.
He definitely gets the award off something.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Unreal.
Anyway, thank you for listening.
Enjoyed that one.